What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi, and you guys are listening to episode 470. And I have an amazing episode for you guys today. I know I'm going to make them feel uncomfortable and embarrassed because that's how comedians get when you say nice things about them. But I truly mean this. This guy on my show right now, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is one of the greatest stand-up comedians to ever do it. That's how I feel. So now I'm just going to bring him in and make it awkward like that right out of the gate. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Regan, the one and only, is on the Virzi Effect. Brian, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you very much. And thank you for those incredibly kind words, man. That means a lot to me.
Well, I know that you've been at it for a very long time. Actually, how long have you been doing stand-up from like day one? Do you remember where it was?
I started last Thursday. So I just wanted your viewers and listeners to go, is this an example of the kind of comedy that this Paul guy is giving a thumbs up to?
That's hilarious.
No, I started many moons ago. And why I'm speaking like a Native American, I don't know. But I started right out of college.
Okay, you did go. And now, are you where did you grow up? Did you grow up you didn't grow up out west, did you?
I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Oh.
I grew up in Miami, Florida, went to college in Ohio, Heidelberg College in Northwest Ohio for about 17 years. It took me a while to graduate,
yeah.
But and then I started comedy in a comedy club in Fort Lauderdale after I left college. Notice I didn't say after I graduated from college. I'm being very cagey and say after I left college.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of us, myself, I dropped out to do this. I said, forget an education. Let's go out to the clubs in New York City all hours of the night and, kill in obscurity for multiple decades.
Yeah, right. That's right.
But let's, you know what, like, we're going to do something different now. What do you think about abortion and climate change? No, I'm kidding. You know what, Brian, who are you voting for? And how do you feel about abortion? No. Let's get to it.
Hey, you were muted. I couldn't hear your question. So I'm going to guess you asked how I got started in comedy.
No, you know what's funny is I think you did this bit. I think you did this bit on you did do this bit on the Tonight Show where it was like, I think it was like right after the 2016 election, and you just go, I've never been more afraid to talk about something. And like, especially today in our business, it's so much like it's almost like when you even see it coming, you're just like, you either turn the other way or you just have to ignore it because it's like that's really the times that we're in right now. That's so funny that you said I was muted.
But even that joke that you're talking about gave me I got a little pushback from people saying we have a right to be angry and we have a right to, have our opinions. And I'm like, man, it's like you can't even say that you just want to go to a barbecue and not get into an argument without people getting angry at that.
It's gone to the point where like I was at the Comedy Cellar before everything locked down. I was just doing this joke how I don't like the WNBA. Just like the WNBA and it was kind of like, because I watched an NBA game where a guy like dunks from the foul line. I was just basically goof. And this lady was just, it went from like, she's like shaking her head at me in disgust, like looking over at her girlfriend. And she gave me the look like typical man. Why? Because it's a woman. And it's like, has no idea I have a little girl at home that I want to have, has no idea. But you're right. It's gone to the point now. That's what I wanted to ask you, because you started a lot. I'm not calling you old by any sense, but you started a lot longer.
Remember my President Taft jokes?
Do you? it wasn't like this. It wasn't when you were coming up like in the 80s and early 90s, you know, obviously there was Democrat, Republican, and people felt strong about it, but it wasn't like this, was it? Or was there a time where the divide was like this earlier?
No, it wasn't like this. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, there have been political parties throughout our nation's history, but what one thing that really, I don't know, I find challenging is that the comedy community, I always felt that the comedy community was a team, like we're a team.
Mm-hmm.
And it bothers me that there are divisions within the comedy community now. You know, it's like, I thought we were all on the same team. We can have different positions on things, but we're still comedians and we still support. You can talk about your point of view. You can talk about your point of view. And the fact that there's divisions within our community is unfortunate, I think.
Yeah.
And when I started, what was weird is when I started, a knock on comedians would be if they got preachy. You know, it's like, wow, he gets preachy on stage, you know?
Right.
And it's gone full circle where if you're not preachy, that's the knock, you know?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, no, that's, you know, Bobby Kelly said something really funny. Bobby Kelly said, as comedians, we should be like we're in the mob, mouth shut, you know, it's like we're in the mob, and like that's kind of the oath you took, and it definitely is not that now. Now you can get a phone call or a text from somebody going, hey man, what's up with that? But I stay away from it. I live in the country. I live an hour north of Manhattan. I'm in the country with my wife, my kids, and I kind of just, you know, do my own thing. I have my group of friends, but it's kind of like I was never that like go to the comedy basketball game guy. Like I was never I'm going to go to the poker with comedians. And not that I'm some lone wolf and I don't want to be a part of the comedy community, but I always kind of separated doing this. Like I always kind of was like, this is what I do, but I'm also like a family guy and I like kind of being away from it when I'm not doing it. Do you ever get like that? Or are you like that? Or?
Well, it's funny, when I lived in New York City, the Improv Comedy Club had a softball team. A number of the clubs, they all had softball teams. And I was like, and they would play against each other, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I think I want to participate in this. I'm going to join the improv softball team. So we go out to Central Park and, you know, we play the game. And then when the game was over, they said, hey, welcome to the improv softball team. It's your turn to be in charge of all the equipment. And they gave me a bag with balls and all this. And I'm like, I don't like this at all.
It's like, it was
I don't want to be in charge of anything. And I'm going back in the subway with a bag filled with bats and balls and bases. And I'm like, I have an assignment. I have an assignment. I don't want to have an assignment.
You're bringing me back to like days, like I'm saying they're bringing you back to days where like you got to make the team and you're just happy to be there. This is comedy.
I'm like, now I have to go to the next game. I can't because I've got the equipment. There's pressure on me now. I got into comedy because I don't want any pressure.
Oh my God, that's you're just like, you had a bad set and you have to lug the bag to the club the next day.
Yeah, right.
Did you because you're just, this is another thing that I definitely have to talk to you about this. You're the funniest, you're one of the funniest people ever, and you do it without cursing. And you ruined a joke that I wanted to do, because once I saw you just basically do every level of it, it's like, yeah, I'm never doing that. I did a joke where, as early on, years ago, when I first started traveling the country, getting on airplanes, and they bumped me up to first class. And I just couldn't believe, I just could not believe, like, A, the level of how they were treating me, and B, how shitty they were treating the people in the back. And I had to, I'm like writing this joke, and I literally write in Google, like, I got to see somebody did this. So I Google like comedian, like first class or first class joke, stand-up comedy. and you have a clip that's 7 minutes and I believe either 20 seconds or 7 minutes and 40 seconds long on YouTube, where you go through the whole thing. Number one, I was crying, laughing a minute and 20 seconds in, crying, laughing. Then I listened to the whole thing and I was like, well, me or no other comedian should ever do that. But I heard a rumor about you and I got to find out if this is true. Okay. Somebody told me you got off stage once. They said, this is how clean Regan is. They said he got off stage once and was upset with himself, okay, because he said the word pissed and he wanted to say peeved. Is that true or false?
I've had things like that happen. I don't remember those specific words.
Yeah.
But I did say a curse word one time in a moment, like I messed up a joke and I went, oh, and it bothered me because it got a big laugh with the audience because I normally don't say that.
Yeah.
And I got off stage and it's like, I felt like I was cheating for me. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I know there are comedians that work dirty, which I completely support. I don't like to work that way. I like to keep comedy within certain parameters, So yeah, I like to feel like I'm hitting the words I want to hit, and it bothers me if I make a mistake and hit a foul ball.
I got to be honest with you. There were times where I listened to my set and I'm going, man, like you killed and that was good. Even my special on Comedy Central did really well, and some things are going viral, but they were like, you didn't need to say that. You didn't need to curse. So I'm always trying to, it is who I am. Like when I talk, I curse, but I think what separates you and what puts you on a whole other thing is that, because to be that funny and to have guys that curse speak about how funny you are. Because listen, I'll be honest with you, and this is not a knock on anybody that's clean. There are a lot of guys that are clean that just don't make me laugh. You're clean and you make me laugh the way Richard Pryor or somebody is at that level. So to do it, I understand why you're saying that word makes you feel like it takes away from what your body of work, what you've always wanted to do, which I think is incredible.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it very much. I mean, I love making audiences laugh, but making comedians laugh is like any even higher honor, you know what I mean? Because we know what it's all about and how challenging it is, and making comedians laugh who like to work on the blue side of the tracks means a lot to me too, because it's like ultimately it's just about being funny, and so I like to feel like I'm welcomed in the comedy community as a whole. It's always bothered me to be sidelined. When people try to say, well, he's funny for a clean comedian. It's like, I don't want to be funny for a clean comedian. I want to be funny as a comedian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It happens to be clean, but it's always bothered me when people like try to put me in this separate category, and it's like, I want to be in the big community,
Yeah, I think that you are, and I think that people, and I know the people that I talk to, when your name comes up, it's never like, oh, Regan's funny, but it's always like, that dude, it's always actually the opposite. It's always, oh my God, not only is he funny, but he can do that and be like that, and be clean like that. So it's almost like an extra envy thing, which is why I put you there. But
thank you.
So I wanted to ask you something, because we were at a wedding together, and you were just, so nice and great. And we did a shot, and you're just a lot of fun. But so it made me think of, I don't know who your heroes of comedy are, but were you ever around? Do you remember a time where you walked in a room and you saw one of your heroes, or like somebody that was like a big deal to you, whether you're like in your 20s or 30s, and all of a sudden, I'll just use an example, like a Dangerfield, or like somebody like that is there and you're there, and were you in those situations? Because I'm sure you've been around those guys. In those situations, do you kind of stay away from those guys? Do you kind of just geek out and like awkwardly stare at those guys? Or will you go up and say, hey, my name is Brian. I'm a big fan. Like, because I remember there were a couple times that happened with me where I would see a big guy that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in it. And I would just freeze up and say nothing, because I didn't want to embarrass myself.
I remember when I was new to New York City, I went into Catch a Rising Star, which doesn't exist anymore. That was like the premier comedy club at the time. And Seinfeld his show wasn't even out yet, but he was still like the pinnacle for stand-up comedians. And he was over at the bar talking to a couple of other big name comedians. And I remember talking to some newer guy like myself, and the guy was going, "Can you imagine standing in that circle with those guys?" Like we didn't even dare go over there and try to pretend like we belonged in that group. We're not even standing near the bar. We're just like off to the side with our little Budweiser. So there were definitely, groups like that. And then after you do it for a while, then you feel like maybe I'm sort of in one of those circles now, I don't know. But years ago, the club where I started, the comic strip, there's the comic strip in New York, but there was one in Fort Lauderdale. I started at the comic strip in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And I worked in the kitchen. I was a dishwasher. I sat people, and this audience member comes in and he said, "Hey, I got a question for you." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Rodney Dangerfield is performing at the Sunrise Musical Theater up the street." He said, "Why don't you like open for him up there? Wouldn't that be better than doing this?" Like I didn't, like it's that simple. Like, I'm literally holding a bus tray probably while he's telling me, "Oh, so I should put my bus tray down and drive up to the Sunrise Musical Theater and open in a theater for Rodney Dangerfield. How come I didn't think of that?"
Yeah.
I should do that.
You should get a gig that, pays you $1 million. Like, why are you doing this? That is yeah.
So dumb of you to be a busboy. I also had another situation where I had a guy come up to me after a show. I had done my first Letterman, and it's a big thing for comedians to do shows like that. And this guy comes up to me. I don't even know who he is, and he goes, "Hey, remember when I told you about 2 years ago that you should get on Letterman?" Huh? Like he set me on that path.
It's so, yeah. It's like when somebody comes up to you after a show and they're like, maybe you could put this in your, how many times have you, maybe you could put this in your thing. And it's like, all I'm thinking is, what do you do for a living? Like, it's like, I do this for a living. I would never take your advice. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm sure some people have some funny stories, but it's like, I would never, and it's annoying because it's like a little intrusive, but that leads me into my next question. I do think it's like, when you say goodbye to somebody, where they're like, "Hey man, really great show. You did great." You're like, "Oh, thanks so much for coming out. I really appreciate it." And then they start, are you from here? Do you come out here a lot? And you're like, "Well, usually like once a year." And then they're like, "Yeah, the weather's unbelievable." And it's just, and there's a line. And we have that thing where, who told me? It might have been Burr. Somebody told me that there's a trick where you just put your hand out and you go, "All right, man, well, you just shut it down," where you just let them know that you've had it and they have to move on,
What I came up with as a trick is it's helpful if it's cold outside, so you have an over jacket, like a winter jacket, right? Don't have it on, but like when a group comes in to the green room, as they're coming in, you put your right arm through the sleeve of the jacket, and you shake their hand with the right arm in the jacket. So it makes it clear that you're clearly putting your jacket on leave and go, "Hey man, I'm glad we were able to get you in here to say hi. Thank you for coming to the show." And then you put your left arm in the jacket.
Dude, that's a great one. I'm
so glad we were able to sneak in here to say hi. Thank you so much for coming. And now you got your winter jacket on. It's clear you're stepping out,
Oh, you put a wool hat on. You just start.
Put your earmuffs.
that's what I wanted to ask you. That's the next question I wanted to ask you, because somebody who really doesn't offend you're so funny without really offending or without anybody. But with this, like with the PC culture and people just getting mad at anything, have you, with your act, had people come up to you and complain about whether it would be topic matter or whether it would be just something you said? Or is that something that, because of how clean you work, that you don't really run into that?
I don't get a lot of that. I think I mentioned earlier, I got a little pushback
With that, yeah, with the, yeah,
about doing a joke about wanting to just be neutral, and people get
yeah,
upset with that. I did a joke a long time ago. I was new to the road. I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but it was, I referred to epileptics and, just when you're young, you're naive and you don't realize the things that you say affect people.
yeah,
And so I had this flippant joke. I don't even remember what it was. And I had a guy come up to me after a show and said, "Hey man, I really enjoyed your show. It was great." He goes, "By the way, I'm epileptic. And I just wanted to let you know, that overall, I thought your show was great. That joke bumped me a little bit." And it went into my heart,
wow,
I was like, I don't want to be on stage hurting anybody.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, I want people to laugh and have a good time. And I don't even like when 99% of the people laugh and at the expense of the other 1%. I want all 100%. I'm a pig. I want all 100%
yeah,
laughing.
yeah.
I don't want to get a laugh at somebody's expense sitting in the front row or somebody out there going, "Wow, that's me he's referring to." So it was like a learning moment, if you will, for me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. And that probably, and how old were you then? You were younger, right?
Yeah, I was like new to the road. I was in my, early 20s, and just like it was an eye opener. Like, to me, it was just a silly, goofy joke. And
Yeah.
hey, man,
Yeah. I
listen
think
to
that things like that probably molded you to be like, like you said, if that hit you, then you probably even subconsciously made a decision then to, like, which kind of steered you into the direction that where you ultimately went, where you're like,
yeah,
I'm not going to alienate anybody. I'm not going to, I'm just going to, me, I have this thing where I get a little defiant towards like that woman shaking that woman shaking her head at me because I didn't like the WNBA. Because I do feel like there is something where it's like, if you do walk into a comedy club, if you do that, if you make the move to pay the ticket and buy the drinks and you're sitting there and you're going to see not one, but kind of multiple acts, you got to kind of know something could come that may rattle your cage a little bit and
yeah.
kind of just go with it. So when people make it about them and they don't make it that it's a show, that does upset me too. It's almost like, and not even in a selfish way, but it's like, as much as I want to look out for you and your feelings, I'm also doing a job here, and you're making me feel like that too.
I agree completely.
You know?
I'm a freedom of speech person, and I don't understand why people need to. I don't know why people feel they need to agree with the person talking to still be entertained by them. Or even if you're not entertained, it's like, why do you have to? Somebody's saying something that they believe from their perspective, whether it's through comedy or whatever, and I don't understand the outrage of hearing something that you don't agree with. It's like, okay, I don't agree with that. Why do you have to go? You can't say that.
Yeah, I know.
I don't get that.
No.
Like, how is that? They're not forcing you to change your mind. You're still allowed to leave with your psychological components in place,
Yeah,
right?
again, it's almost like the world wouldn't be fun if everybody was on the exact same page. Could you
Right.
imagine if everybody just agreed on everything and it's like, that doesn't make anybody individual. That doesn't make anybody innovative. That doesn't make people creative. I mean, listen, there's people that I love in my family that I definitely disagree with a lot. And
Some
that's, you know?
Some of the hardest I've ever laughed is when I would perform at Caroline's in New York. I would do the two first shows Friday and Saturday, and then Paul Mooney would come in and headline the third show. And I would sit in the back with a beer. And, you know, I would not describe Paul Mooney's act as pro-white. You know,
Yeah.
he's doing comedy from his perspective, from his point of view. And I would howl at his take on things, you know. I don't agree with everything he says. I'm laughing at his version, at his point of view, at what he thinks is funny, from everything that has affected him as a person, growing up and becoming a man. And I would howl at it. And it would be, you know, I could, if I wanted by rights, go, hey, I disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't I just enjoy hearing someone's point of view?
Yeah, because, well, that's because you're a smart individual and you understand that that's a black man talking about what a black man sees every day. And guess what? We don't know what that is.
Yes.
So
and,
it's
and I'm learning through what he's saying. I'm learning something, you know.
If there was a really fat, let's just say there was just a fat white woman talking about what it's like to be a fat white woman, okay, let me sit back and kick back. I don't know what it's like. And I'm good. Like you said, I'm going to learn what it's like to be a really overweight, whatever. And yeah, so that's how I always took it. I think that those people do just take it too personally and stuff. And I'm hoping, though, what I'm afraid of, Brian, and I don't know what to think about this, but you know, my son is 11, my daughter's 8. And I'm like, what's going to happen when they go, like, is it going to get to the point where like it gets so unbelievable that like freedom of speech is almost like altered? And I don't want to sound like some, you know, crazy conspiracy, but it's like, it's almost like if it's progressively getting like this, like what's gonna happen, you know, like even the comedy. So I'm just hoping that, like, I don't know what it is, but I'm hoping that it comes back the way, you know, or at least where people can talk and just say what they want to do without anybody thinking that there's malice or a malicious intentions.
Right. I mean, I can't, I'm about to say I can't predict the future, like you didn't know that. Paul, I don't have the ability.
You can't, you know what? Then this is over. That's why I got Brian Regan on the show to just tell me when things were going to be better.
But I do think there are pendulums in life. I was doing Bill Burr's podcast and I said pendulum, and he corrected me on the podcast going, I think it's pendulum. And I so wanted to go back 30 seconds and correct it so I didn't sound like an idiot. But so that's why I'm saying pendulum on this one. But I think there are pendulums, and I think this restriction on free speech is going so far that it is eventually going to hit a point where it has to start coming back. Sure. I believe there's going to be a backlash. I think people are eventually going to go, okay, we got to relax a little bit, you know, and allow people to say things that we don't agree with. I believe that that's going to be in the future, but I cannot predict the future. I want to be on record making that clear.
Damn it. I love how you prefaced it. So let me ask you this. So you have kids?
Yes.
Okay. And you
21-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So, they were watching you grow as a comic too, like the whole time. Like that's that's pretty cool to be able to say that. And, you know, one thing about working clean the way you do is you're kind of proud of all the stuff. Whereas me, I'm like, guys, maybe you shouldn't listen to that clip that Daddy just did. So that's why I admire you. But let me ask you this question.
Can I just throw one story in? I love the thing about being a dad is so, you know, that is more powerful and more important than being a comedian. I mean, it's like I love being a comedian, but I love one time I was performing. My daughter was 8 years old on the side of the stage, and I'm, I'd like to think I'm sort of a big shot. I'm performing in a theater in front of a bunch of people. Had a great show, said goodnight, walk off stage. And the moment I walk off stage, my daughter goes, "My Band-Aid came off my pinky. I need a new Band-Aid." And I'm like, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, like after what you...
I was just out in front. I just said goodnight, and I'm complete, like it's like just a shift into, all right, daddy mode. Let's go get you a Band-Aid,
But
I
that
love adult back into reality,
But that's what I was gonna say. Like that in a nutshell is life, because like what we do is what we do, who we are. But your kids don't care. Your kids just care about, in that situation, daddy, fix my pinky, and you're like, I just killed Carnegie Hall. They could care. Yeah, it is. I think Jim Carrey said something where like Jim Carrey's daughter at one point was like, "Oh my God, like, can you introduce me?" He was like doing a movie and he's like Jim Carrey, and they just like, "Can you introduce me to Ice Cube?" Like she could care less that like Jim Carrey was her dad and more of like who he knows. And it really does put things into perspective, because sometimes comedians can, and I'm sure you went through this, where when you're coming up, all you're thinking about is like your next move. And I got to take myself out of that sometimes and be like, listen, stop promoting, stop thinking about, your career, and understand that this little boy and this little girl, so I'll put the phone down and I'll go out. And I think maybe that goes to what I was saying earlier, where I'm not just going to go run to the city because comics are hanging out having beers and having drinks. It's like I really like to prioritize that. And I was, really young when I had my kids. I was in my 20s. And so I got married and did this whole thing where people were like, "What are you, nuts?" Like about the career. And it's like, I was never going to not do that. I was never going to be a comedian in a studio, like, living off of bagels. And I was just never going to do that. Like, as much as I love it, I always wanted, and luckily, I married a great woman, and I was able to pursue this and have it, work out. But I don't understand. There are some guys that are like, not to make this podcast get dark and weird, but I see some comics that are getting older and lonely and just sitting around going, "I almost got married," and just staring at their glass of wine. And I'm like, that's not going to be me, man. That was never going to be me,
You need a life outside of it. As wonderful as comedy is, you need a life outside of it.
You do. No, you do. Like I was going to say, you've been doing this since you're 20, so you never really had a serious job. You dropped out of college to do this.
I dropped out of college to do it. I was a salad chef for a short while, and then I got into comedy. And the first couple of years I worked at that comic strip in Fort Lauderdale that I was telling you about, and I got a job at a toy store one time during the day. I just thought, well, I'm not doing anything during the day. I might as well make some extra money. And I got a job at a toy store, and it just felt so wrong.
Why? You were
just like I felt like either I'm in or I'm out with the comedy thing.
Yeah.
Don't be halfway. I would wake up and go to the toy store and take the punch card and punch it in, and I'm like, at night I'm just showing up at a comedy club and sharing my silly thoughts, and like the worlds didn't fit together. And I was like, yeah. I got to stop this toy store thing. Even if I'm putting an extra $150 a week in my pocket, it's not worth it,
I got to stop this toy store thing. That's great. Yeah, because you knew what you wanted to do. That's awesome. Now, being a Miami guy, are you a Dolphins? Are you like a Miami across the board? Are you Dolphins, Heat, Marlins, or?
Well, I'm a Dolphins fan. The Dolphins were around when I was a kid. The Heat came after I had already kind of moved out of there. The Marlins came in like
later. Yeah,
I was already, so I'm not a big baseball nor basketball fan anyway. I'm just football and golf are the two sports that I enjoy. So I'm a Dolphins fan, but it's challenging for me because I live in Vegas and the Raiders are here for their first year, and I'm like, am I supposed to switch over to the Raiders and leave the Dolphins behind? I'm having allegiance issues.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So, So you're are you like a diehard Dolphins, or are you just like, no, you're more, do you play golf?
Yeah, I'm terrible at it, but yeah, I play. I go out and hack it around, and
But you
that's what
break
that's
100
where
or
all
no?
my all the curse words I don't do in my act, they come out on the golf
It's
course.
so funny you said that. So I got my stepfather involved in golf. He was a retired UPS driver, like 20 something years. And he just was like, he just wasn't doing much. And he was just like, you could tell he was bored out of his mind, religious man, churchgoer, you know, he would, very supportive, but like, he would be like, when you were talking about your penis, I didn't, he was just, one of those. And I got him in golf. And now it's like 7 seasons in, he loves it and will play. And he's like a religious, and he'll hit the ball bad and he'll just scream the F word. And then he goes, it's the only game that like a priest. I actually think it will break a priest. Like it's so frustrating to like line up and get ready and hit it wrong, because being out there for 5 hours when it really sucks is not fun at all.
It'd be fun if God himself golfed. I think he would curse if he sliced one into the woods.
It is so true. I actually played golf with Rich Voss in Nevada, in Vegas, and we went up to the first tee, and there was a giant bull snake that, like, it's either a bull snake or a copperhead. And the guy who looked at it said, no, that's not the poisonous one. That's the bull snake. But some of the things I saw, as beautiful as the scenery is in Nevada, when you golf out there and you're out there, man, you see I never saw road runners. There was snakes, there's lizards out there. But I will tell you, I do love Vegas. I wanted to ask you this because me and my buddy got into an argument about this. All right, this is going to be a weird question, Brian. It's going to be a weird question. What's the last animal you would want to kill you? So listen, you're out there, you're hiking, you're either walking around in the mountains of Nevada or somewhere else. What is the last thing that you would want to kill you? Now, me and my buddy Giannis Pappas, funny comedian, he's a friend. I said that a snake constricting me to death and then swallowing me whole, because that actually happened. A guy got drunk in India. He passed out, and like a 40-foot anaconda swallowed him, and there's pictures of it online. It's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's in his belly. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. So he's going, Paul, you're nuts. Like a pack of dogs like pecking at you, or like, and I'm going, no, it's got to be one animal. It's got to be one animal. For me, and we got into it. Like, he called me immature because he said the snake thing would be quick and peaceful, which I disagree with. But what's the –
call somebody immature over. You're so immature.
He goes, that's just an immature answer because you're going to suffocate and go. And I'm like, first of all, it's a 30-second suffocation easily. Your bones are getting crushed. And in the back of your mind, this thing's probably going to swallow you. For me, hands down, that's the most horrifying thing. I know some people say sharks. Are you afraid of a certain animal more than others, or I should say fascinated by?
The animal I would least want to be killed by would be like a cuddly pet bunny, because it would be so embarrassing. Like if the story got out. Do you hear how Regan died? A cuddly pet bunny killed him.
Just got him in his jugular, and it's like this beautiful fuzzy little. It's like
you see the tail.
Like, people see.
Why didn't he just grab it by the tail and pull it off?
People just see his face with blood around it. Like, he's kind of cute, though. He's kind of.
But let me think. Well, the shark thing is.
Yeah, shark thing's a big one.
Pretty horrifying, but how about like one of them big giant, whales the size of a skyscraper, and you're just scuba diving, looking at beautiful coral, and the next thing you know, it's just dark, like you don't even see it coming, and then all of a sudden you realize I'm being swallowed by a sperm whale. And
That is actually, to be honest with you, like all jokes aside, that's horrifying to be. I guess what I'm trying to say too, and maybe that's why the snake thing, to be swallowed whole as a human being and to just be swallowed whole by something that's that massive, which makes you that insignificant, is horrifying.
and what if you're like alive in there? You know what I mean? Like you get swallowed and you go, okay, I don't know how to get out of this.
It's like a cartoon where they have like a lighter and they're like they hear an echo.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, I would not want to die that way. Dying inside a whale's belly. Like I'm alive in there.
That's a good one. Yeah, because it's almost like and you're like, when does the digestive process start happening?
When does this start happening?
Yeah, that's a good one. In a whale's stomach, swallowed whole while vacationing, you're just and how funny would it be if you're sitting in his stomach with the snorkel still on?
Yeah.
Like you just have it all on, and you're just like, all right, this is not how. Oh, that's great.
And you gotta text your loved ones, going, "You're not gonna believe where I am."
And they're like, "We get it, Brian. You're on vacation in Hawaii." You're like, "No.
We get it. Yeah, you're snorkeling. We know.
Let me guess. Swimming with the dolphins?" You're like, kinda. I was.
Quit bragging, Brian.
We, my wife and I, oh, this is so great, man. It's so great to talk to you. My wife and I, we went to Hawaii for our 10-year wedding anniversary. 2 years ago, we flew to Honolulu. We did the Waikiki thing. And so I was like, do you want to go? My wife does not like fish or water. She doesn't eat seafood. She just freaked out when she's a little girl. She was swimming in a lake and a fish like pecked at her like legs. So it just completely freaked her out, So we're in Hawaii and she's like, you know what, Paul, I'm going to be adventurous. I don't care. It's our 10-year. And she's just got this pep in her step. I'm like, who are you? She's trying seafood and the whole thing. Right. So the next day we're about to go on a catamaran. We're going to go on a catamaran and then we're going to go snorkeling to a place on like the west of the island, which like you put your head in the water and it's literally like the most beautiful fish like ever. So we're eating the night before and my older brother happened to be there because of AFLAC like convention. So I said, do you mind? She goes, no, I don't care if your brother goes. So my brother Christian decides to come with us. So I start goofing off. Like I start saying, man, Christian went on a trip on a boat once and he was throwing up for 5 hours. Wouldn't it be something if he's throwing up tomorrow, right? And we're laughing, eating. Next day, I get my coffee. We get out there. We get on this catamaran, me, my brother, my wife. We're about to go snorkeling and stuff. And they were like, all right, we're going to make some rum drinks for everybody. And this cool thing. And they start making these concoctions and I'm drinking it. And we go out and we get to where we're going to get off and jump in. And there's a school of dolphin going up and down. I didn't know this about dolphins, but when they're like that, they're like in a catatonic. They're sleeping. Dolphins can sleep when they're going. It's like they're like half sleeping because their brains are able to, they need to stay awake for predators, but at the same time they're sleeping. So it's almost like they're sleep swimming in a school, right?
Wow.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden we get the flippers on and they go, this is a spot, and everybody jumps in and the water was a little bit like this, right? And I got this rum in my stomach and I got this coffee in my stomach and I'm just not feeling right. And Brian, I put my head in the water and I see all these fish and there's sea turtles and it's beautiful. And I come up and it's doing this to me. And I start having a full-fledged anxiety panic attack, like out of body experience where I'm fully panicking. And my wife is looking at me. Now she's the one scared of fish and she's diving up and down. She's fine. My brother's like, isn't this great? I'm sitting there and my wife goes, are you all right? Are you all right? So I'm like, I don't know. Then the guy, like the tour guy knew. He could sense something was wrong. And he goes, hey brother, you all right, man? He's like this Hawaiian guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I put my head down and I'm like, I got to get out of here. I start panicking and we're far from the thing. So I said to my wife, I go, I don't want to be the first ones back, but just like 5 minutes, we got to go. And I just started like hyperventilating. And I'm like, and the funniest thing was it's horror in my mind. right? It's horror. I'm scared. I can't breathe. Then you put your head in, and it's like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And then finally, I start panicking back, right? I'm panicking back, and we get there, and I just take this. I couldn't get the flippers off soon enough. It was hard even getting back on the thing. I run downstairs, and my wife stood by the door, and I'm just, I was just started throwing up all over the place. My wife and everybody hears this horror going on. And I'm going, you made fun of your brother at dinner the night before for throwing up for 5 hours on a, on a boat. And it was me who was throwing up. And it was brutal. It was brutal, dude. It was horrible. And because of that, I don't know if I could ever go snorkeling again.
Wow, man. What a tale.
Yes.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Well, the internet just became unstable. So I don't know if you can hear me or if I can hear you.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. It just went out for 1 second.
Oh, did it? Okay.
But wow, man.
Yeah.
So you would never snorkel again that you know of, or who knows?
It was just, you know what? It was just, I think it was a combination of the rum, the coffee, and the water going like this, and then me being out there, and I just had a full-fledged panic. I've never had I literally had a full-fledged panic attack while snorkeling with like all these people and my wife around me, and then my brains just threw up. So it's like, I'm good. I think I'm going to just stay on the boat, or like, I don't need to be in the, it let me realize how insignificant I was. And it was just a little wavy because of a storm. So I'm good with I'll see the dolphins and all that from the boat. But like, my wife was great. My brother was great. And I'm the one thinking I'm going to be the only one who was okay. And it brought me to my knees.
Well, it's just, isn't that weird though, that the brain, like, who knows why it decides to do that to you? Like maybe there's a reason. Maybe your brain is sensing something that you don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's got to get out of the water here. It's just funny how the human brain might be more powerful than we give it credit for. So.
Yeah. I think, like, I don't know if you ever did this, but when you're ever a kid or you're walking in the dark alone, did you ever get a sense like something was chasing you or something? So you'd start running, or you would just be afraid, like just get a feeling of like some weird feeling. Maybe your mind tells you, get out, get out. Are you, before we get out of here, man, and thank you so much for doing this, dude. You're somebody that like is not only are you so funny, but you're such a great dude. And that's the other thing. Like you really, and I know, again, I mean, I've been full of compliments. So, you're probably going to have a bad day the rest of your day, but,
I appreciate it.
No, are you into, do you believe in with Halloween? Let's talk about this before we get out of here. Are you into ghosts? Do you believe in spirits? Do you believe in any kind of supernatural thing like that? Or are you one of those people that see ghosts are out of their mind? It's in their head. I don't believe in anything like that. What do you got with that?
I with big things like that, I try to think that I'm not qualified to know, whether or not there's, it's like we're aware of certain things, but who knows what's out there that we're not aware of, and to me, it's like a 50-50, like if a person dies, does that energy just stop? There's a lot of energy to a life and a brain. Is it just over with? Like if somebody hits a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, does that just stop? Or does that life force, does that exist somehow in another dimension? I don't know. Just like earlier, I can't tell the future.
See, I had you on the podcast.
I don't know about extra dimensions. I want to be on record that I'm not an expert on extra dimensions.
I wanted you on the Virzi effect to tell us if everything was going to be okay in life, and if there was an afterlife, as if you had those answers.
So if anybody out there is headed towards a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, there's going to be no comfort in my words. You're not going to be able to go, oh, well, I remember Brian saying that there's an afterlife, so I'm not worried about this anymore.
I was watching this new Unsolved Mysteries that's on because I'm fascinated with Unsolved Mysteries. I'm fascinated. What's frustrating is I want them to do a follow-up of Unsolved Mysteries Solved. You know, because if you find out a guy committed murder, like one guy committed murder and he got on death row and he escaped death row. And then he's just out there. And I'm like, all right, can we see if they get him? That's what frustrates me. But the one with tsunami, dude, the 2011 tsunami, you know, rest those people's souls in Japan. But there were literally, Brian, and it's on Netflix now, but there were literally hundreds and hundreds of like extra otherworldly spiritual ghost encounters by people, and even like monks and doctors. And like after that happened, like months after, people just seeing and feeling and like some of the things. And I'm literally going, forget every horror movie. This is the scariest. I'm on my couch. I got my doors locked. It was really freaky. So if you ever want to, I don't know if you're into stuff like that, but like, because usually most of the unsolved mysteries are murders that happen that you don't know. You know, somebody's in a hotel room dead. You don't know. A politician's in a landfill, which was one of them. But like this was like more of like ghostly stuff, and I was just like, it was like really freaky. But I believe in fear.
What would terrify me?
Did I lose you? Oh.
The internet cut out on that. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I heard you say.
I think that what would terrify me the most would be a ghost of a cuddly pet bunny. You know, and I'm seeing, like, I can see the bunny in the tail, but I can also see through it. You know. And I look around and I'm inside a whale. I'm inside a ghost whale's stomach with a bunny nibbling at my jugular.
You're holding the bunny in the whale.
In the whale.
We're naming this episode of the Virzi Effect is definitely going to be called the Killer Bunny, or the Bunny for sure. But I'll tell you this story, and before we get out of here, I'm in 10th grade. Like an idiot, I smoked cigarettes, and I was in high school, and I told my mom I was just going to go out for a cigarette and listen to my music and come inside. And I go and I said, this is a 100% true story, Brian, 100% true. It freaked us out. And I'm sitting there and I'm just looking around, and it's kind of upstate New York. And I look to the right. I just got this awful feeling. And it's dark, and I'm like, something's there. Something's there, but I'm looking, it's dark, nothing's there. I go back to smoke my cigarette. I'm listening to my walk, my CD-man, if you will, and I'm listening to it. And then again, I just stop the music and I look again, and I'm going, what are you? And I'm starting breathing heavy, and I'm feeling this energy. And I'm going like, something's off, man. And I'm going, Paul, what are you doing? You're being and then I'm telling myself that you're telling yourself this. And I go back and I go, you're upstate New York, stop being a baby. And, you know, before I left, my mother said, don't have any friends. You're going to smoke your cigarette and you're going to come inside. And I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden, like the third time, everything about me, inside of me, said, grab your, get it now, get out. So I get this feeling of fear, and I look down and I go to grab my cigarettes and my Walkman, and the front door flies open all in the same time. And my mother goes, I told you not to have any friends here. And I looked at her and I go, I don't. She goes, yeah, you don't think I saw your friend in the white hat just run right by, right there on the side of the house. And dude, I just got the chills saying that. And I told her, and she was just like, and we all freaked out. That is 100% real. There is no, listen, I don't want that to be real. And there were rumors that the neighbor's house across the way was haunted, to the point where they talked about this ghost like she was, oh, is that her again? The doors, I was helping them move, and the door slammed over, and they talked about it. As a matter of fact, they're like, yeah, that's just so-and-so. And I'm like, all right, dude, can you call a moving company? Like I was just, it was, but that's true. So listen, I don't know if those.
I'm not going to be able to sleep again for the rest of my life after this podcast. These stories are scaring the daylights out of me, Paul.
Hey, listen, you know what? It's Halloween. We have to have a little bit. It's a Halloween theme. And your biggest fear is a cute bunny rabbit. So we don't have to, what do you got coming up, man? Where are you going to be?
I just shot a Netflix special.
Yes. Week. Congratulations. In Utah?
in Utah at an outdoor venue, and that'll be coming out in the first quarter of next year, 21. And I'm just doing some comedy clubs. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. You know, when you're done with an hour of material, moving on from that, I've got Columbus, Ohio. Let me look at my calendar here. Kansas City. I've got Des Moines. I've got Savannah and Naples, Florida.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Daytona Beach, many things.
Yeah.
Reno, New Year's Eve. So.
Where's that, New Year's Eve?
Reno on New Year's Eve. 2 shows in Reno on New Year's Eve. So anyway, it's fun. I don't got to tell you, it's fun getting on stage and doing new stuff, man. Love it.
No, that's what I'm going through now. Like, we're trying to get the next special somewhere, and it's just like, as much as it's like you want to you get tired of the same material, and like that's what it's like. As much as it's like, oh well, we may have to wait, or COVID, it's like, yeah, but I'm getting tired of the joke.
Yes, that was my fear. We were supposed to shoot this special like in May.
Yeah.
And then the COVID thing hit, that had to be punted, and I had an opportunity to do this outdoor venue. That's why we were able to do it, because it was outdoors.
Yeah.
The whole audience is wearing masks, so we had to shoot around it and the whole thing. But
let me ask you about that real quick, Brian. Because you're probably one of the first people to do this. You're probably the only person right now to do a special where everybody's in a mask. Did it muffle the laughter, or did it seem fine?
Well, I don't ever hear laughs anyway. I mean, I just do jokes and just hope there's one random weird person out there who gets it. No, I was concerned about it, but the way the seats were set up, everybody was kind of close, like the seats went up, and I was able to hear the laughs really well. I was very happy. Great. Yeah. And so anyway, I'm proud of that and looking forward to getting rid of that material.
Well, dude, I want to thank you so much for being on here. I truly believe that you are one of the funniest people to ever do it, and I think that the way you do it and go about your business is very unique, and nobody's doing what you're doing, and you're still doing it. So it's an honor to have you on the Virzi Effect, man. And hopefully we could run into each other on the road and have a beer. And I wish you all the best with the Netflix special and everything.
Paul, you're the greatest, man. Thank you so much. I enjoyed hanging out with you at that wedding and getting to know you. And likewise, let's hook up and have a cocktail and a shot and a cigarette and
no bunnies.
Snorkel and a bunny and a bunny. Yeah, man. Thanks for everything, Paul.
No worries, man. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, man. Later.